welcome back. It's Louise Rodgers again here for Psychologies magazine, and this is the third of our series of 4 videos looking at how to say no at work and still succeed. In our first week, we looked at some of the external and internal factors that may make saying yes our default position when we're asked to do something, and these included things like childhood experiences and thinking that you've got something to prove. Last week, we considered the internal checks and balances that might work for you and how to use these to make sure that you manage your responses better, so that you only say yes when it's the right answer. I asked you to think of 2 or 3 people you admire for their no-nonsense approach. Did you manage to do this? And if so, what did you notice about them? And what can you learn from them? So this week, we're ready to start practicing how we develop a healthy no habit, saying no in a way that will actually help us to succeed at work. I'd like to think of this as saying no like we really mean it. Because becoming known as the person who always says no means that after a while, people will simply stop asking you to do things. And if this happens, you may miss out on the really important opportunities and challenges that will help you to succeed at work. So let's explore ways to be the person who's known for the clear, considerate and helpful way we express ourselves, even in tough conversations. Last week, I gave you an example of how to push back when your boss asks you to do something that you feel that you really don't have either the time or the capacity to take on. But what do you do when it's a client or a colleague who's doing this and you've been through your internal checks and balances and you know that no is the right answer? You can feel in your gut that it would be a mistake to say yes and won't serve anyone's best interests. Well, if you shut them down without listening fully to the request or the reasoning behind it, you definitely risk offence. So hear them out. Practice listening without urgency, resisting the urge to interrupt or get your own point of view across until they've finished outlining their position. This is a deceptively difficult thing to do, but it's a skill that's really worth practicing and developing, the skill of really listening. And if having listened, no is the right answer, consider softening the blow by using the counter-offer strategy. You can bring your creative side into play and explore whether there's another way around the issue that's been raised, and then articulate this to them clearly. The simple truth is that good client and customer relations rely on solving problems like this. And if your counter-offer is an equally good solution, you put the power back into their hands. Presenting your client with a solution that they may not have thought of themselves, but that also suits you better, can be the best way to say no to a client and preserve that all-important relationship. It can even help to grow the relationship because they will learn to respect your advice. This can also work with colleagues. More and more of us are working collaboratively or in teams for much of the time, and there are always people who will take on more responsibility than they can really handle, simply because they don't want to be seen as not pulling their weight. Learning how to grow your ability to say no comfortably in this situation is really important, and you can do so and still be a good team player. First of all, make sure that you've listened and clarified the exact nature of the task and the required timescale. It can help if you reflect this back to the team or the group to make sure that you've got it down clearly. And if you then feel that it's definitely something you shouldn't commit your time or talents to, do try to come up with an alternative solution or person that will still get the job done. The most important thing is to say no constructively. And if no is definitely the right answer, be clear and direct. A lot of us worry about how we're being perceived by others, so we don't speak up. But there are many people who prefer a more direct response because they can then get moving rather than waiting on an answer. Don't leave them hanging. There's nothing worse than somebody saying yes to something and then being unable to deliver on the promises they've made. So if you're going to say no, say it now and not when it's too late for it to be sorted out in another way. And don't dress it up with over-apologising or giving multiple reasons. The person you're saying no to probably isn't interested in these. They just want to get on and find someone who will say yes. Of course, it's really important to be polite, but saying no depends on saying it clearly. Trying to keep everybody happy all of the time is a recipe for stress and frustration, and it's simply impossible to do. You may fear that people will lose respect for you or be disappointed if you say no, but the reality is that most people won't think any the less of you, and they may even think more of you if you do it by being just as conscious about why and how you're saying it as you are about saying it. Remember too that by saying no, you're modelling not only good judgment, but good self-care to those around you. The bottom line is that saying no takes learning, and it certainly takes practice. So this week, I'd like you to try saying no without excessive justification, explanation, or apology. Perhaps with a trusted friend, family member, or colleague to start with. And notice how this feels and ask them for their feedback. Well, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again in our 4th video, which is also our final video. And during that, we'll be talking about goal setting and how having a clearer idea about what yours are can help you to say no more often. Enjoy the rest of your day.